Hello, welcome to Tola Data. Today we are going to walk through how to set up periodic targets for your indicators, as well as how to assign indicator evidence or data to a given periodic target. First, let's log in to TolaActivity. Next, navigate to Indicators. Periodic targets should be set up at the same time as an indicator is created. So let's add a new indicator. The indicator that I want to enter is a custom indicator. So I'm going to skip these first two fields, ensure that my country and program are correct, and click Save. For this example, my indicator is the number of participants who completed vocational training. Next, I will navigate to the Targets tab to set my periodic targets. Please note on this page there are a number of new fields that are now required. If I were to go ahead and save, you will note that the unit of measure, life of program target, baseline, and target frequency now ask for values to be entered. Unit of measure can be anything from percentage, number, rate, proportion, or even something like households, individuals, businesses, etc. In this case, my unit of measure is number of participants. My life of program target is 100. And my baseline is actually 0. Next, I will look at my indicator plan and assign the target frequency. Here, this is a new field in TolaActivity that lists out the various options for target frequencies or periodic targets. We have life of program only. If you had a midline and endline target, for example, if you were doing a midline or endline evaluation and you were measuring an outcome indicator, this is a selection you might make. For many of our programs, annual is a common option where we're reporting out the indicator performance on an annual basis. Semi-annual refers to twice a year. Triannual refers to 3 times a year. Quarterly is another common target frequency, as many programs have quarterly reporting requirements. We also have monthly reporting options or monthly target frequencies. And then the last one is an event for those unexpected shocks or events that occur, or even trainings or distributions that are done on an ad hoc basis. In this case, the frequency that I will select is quarterly. Once I make my selection, I will see that there are 2 additional fields that auto-populate beneath this field. The first field is first target period begins. This is asking me, when does my first quarter begin? My program began on January the 1st, so either type in January 1st, 2018, or I can navigate to the correct date using these drop-down menus for month and for year, after which I select Done. Because my program is 3 years long, I know that I have 12 quarters in my 3-year program, so I'm going to enter 12, and then I will hit Create Targets. I see that the information that I have entered has been saved, and if I scroll down, you'll note that the system has auto-generated quarters based on the initial first quarter date that I entered. So for example, because I entered January 1st, 2018, the first quarter is automatically generated for January 1st, 2018 to March 31st, 2018, and so on and so forth for all 12 quarters. At this point, I can go ahead and enter my target values. Now, say I didn't actually add enough quarters. I need to add a quarter. To add a periodic target, or a quarter in this case, I simply click on this button, Add a Target, and the system will auto-generate the next logical quarter in the sequence. Now say that I have too many quarters and I actually don't need this quarter. To delete this quarter, I simply click on the X, and if I need to delete additional quarters, I will continue deleting with this X mark until I have the right number of quarters for my indicator. Once I'm done, I hit Save. But let's say I made a mistake. I don't actually want a quarter. Should actually be reported annually. So I want to change this. So in order to do that, I will need to remove all targets here. Now I will get a warning message because what this means is I'm basically wiping out all of my periodic targets and it cannot be undone. So I hit OK. Now I want to change my target frequency to annual. Reselect the first target period begins. And it's a 3-year program still. And I have my periodic targets on an annual basis here. So my target for year 1 on the number of participants who completed vocational training is actually 33. And then on year 2, it's 66. And then on year 3, it's 100. Again, if I need to add additional targets, I can do so here. Or if I need to remove targets, I can do so here. In which case, this looks good to me. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Save Changes. Now, let's say it's still really early in my setup phase. I haven't actually done my baseline yet, in which case we just don't have our targets quite yet. So in this case, I want to set this to the life of program target because I haven't actually planned out my periodic targets, in which case I will remove all targets. Again, this is okay, but I want to be sure that I'm going to erase everything I just did. So now I want to hit life of program only, in which case there's nothing left to do because you have already notated the life of program up here, in which case I would just hit Save Changes. Now, let's also take a look at midline and endline. Midline and endline are unique because these are a little bit more determined by each individual program. Let's say I wanted to have 50 participants who completed the vocational training by the midline, and the endline, I wanted 100. So I've set my midline and endline targets. What about if I do my trainings on an ad hoc basis and I want to do it by each training event? Let's see what an event looks like. Remove all targets, hit OK. Target frequency, event. First event name will be, let's say it's training 1, or more precisely, vocational training 1. Let's give it a site of Portland. Number of events, well, let's say we have at least 3 trainings. So let's try 3. Create targets. Success, form data is saved. And now you'll see something a little bit different. So for an event, I actually can name each event with a unique name as well as a unique target. Now if I have additional trainings or additional events, I can always add here. Or if I need to delete any event targets, again, I can select the X button here and it will take that away, and I can just go ahead and save my changes. Now, let's say you've begun collecting evidence on this indicator. So let's go see how to attach indicator evidence and assign it to a particular periodic target. So once I have indicator data or evidence to attach, I'll navigate to the specific indicator that I want. Number of participants who completed vocational training. I'll click on the Data button. I see that there are no data or evidence has been attached, so I'm going to attach new data. And then for this particular indicator, I know that I have my periodic targets are based on a training event, in which case I will simply notate when I collected the data or when the training event occurred. Now, if I had selected an annual, semi-annual, triannual, quarterly, or monthly target, because this is a date, the system would auto-recognize when that date occurred and automatically assign to the correct periodic target. But because this is an event, I need to manually assign which particular periodic target my evidence needs to be attached to. The actual value was 33. And hit save. I see down here that my save was successful, in which case I'll just X out. Now, the data record table underneath the indicator has auto-refreshed with the new data record. And I can see here that for this particular training, my target was 30, but my actual was 33. And you can see here that I met 110%. Next, I have more data to add. So let's go ahead and add more data. And you can see again that it is auto-refreshed with the latest data record. I also have data for London. And I can see that it is auto-refreshed for all 3 events. I can see line by line my target versus actual and the percentage that I met against that target. Now in this last line here, you can see the life of program target of 100. You can see the sum, in this case, number of participants. You can see that I've met 75 out of 100 participants, and that is 75% met. Now, what if I have a different indicator, say percentage, or an index score, or a Likert scale, a qualitative score? Let's go ahead and add an indicator like that. I will add in the name of my indicator, in which case this is a percent. And my unit of measure is percentage. My life of program target is 80%. My baseline is 0 in this case. And my target frequency for this one, let's say I want, for the time being, a select life of program. I haven't quite yet figured out my periodic targets. So I'll go ahead and hit save. And let's say I've already got some data to attach to this indicator. Here, now percentage of participants demonstrating new vocational skills. So you can see here that I have 3 data collection records over a 3-year span. Now, say I needed to go back and actually change my periodic targets. So I'll go back to my indicator targets and I'll change it to annual. The first target period begin date will be January 1st, 2016. And I will have, let's say 6. So now, because I've already attached data and it was automatically assigned to the life of program target, this is asking me that now the system will reassign those data records, that evidence that I attached, to the new targets. So you can see here the evidence that I had previously attached and assigned to the life of program target has now been automatically reassigned based on the date collected that corresponds to the annual period that I had specified. Something to note here, that because this is a percentage, the actual sum and the percent met sum don't quite make sense. So what it is doing is actually summing percentages. Again, this is somewhat misleading for any indicator that is not counting or summing numbers. This will be addressed in a later TOLA data release, but just something to note for the time being. So that concludes today's periodic target screencast. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for future TOLA data screencasts.